Ever wondered how a boy from Porto Alegre became the most joyful footballer in history? Tonight, let's drift into the dreamlike journey of Ronaldinho, where every touch of the ball felt like magic. Close your eyes and imagine the warm Brazilian sun as we trace his path from playing barefoot in the streets to lighting up stadiums worldwide. No stats, no hype, just a gentle, rhythmic story of passion and creativity that'll ease you into sleep like a lullaby.
The sun dips low over Porto Alegre, painting the narrow streets in golden light. On a patch of uneven ground between houses, a small boy weaves between makeshift goalposts, two stacked bricks on each end. His bare feet kick up little clouds of dust as he dances around imaginary defenders. This is Ronaldo de Assis Moreira, though everyone already calls him Ronaldinho, the little Ronaldo. The ball he plays with isn't leather or plastic, just rags tightly wound with string. Yet it moves like it's part of him. Around him, the sounds of the neighborhood fill the air. The clatter of dishes from open kitchen windows, the laughter of other children chasing the game. His older brother watches from the sideline, offering quiet advice between plays. Money is tight for their family, but here on this dusty patch of earth, none of that matters. Football is an escape, a world where all that exists is the ball at his feet and the next move he'll create. Over time, the makeshift games stretch into evening, played under the glow of streetlights when the sun fades too soon. His father, João, had been a footballer too, not a famous name, but someone who understood the rhythm of the game. Before work each day, he would take Ronaldinho to the local pitch, showing him how to shape his body when striking the ball, how to read the space before it opened. Those lessons sunk deep even after João passed away too soon. Football became more than play, it was a way to hold onto him. Weekends brought neighborhood tournaments, the kind where the winning team might earn a soda or a packet of sweets. Ronaldinho stood out even then, not because he was the strongest or fastest, but because of the way he saw the game. Where others charged forward, he paused, waiting for just the right moment to slip the ball through tangled legs. He played with a smile even when opponents fouled him, as if the joy of playing outweighed everything else. Word of the boy with the quick feet and quicker mind began to spread. Scouts from local youth clubs would stop by the games, lingering near the pitch. Grêmio, one of the biggest clubs in Porto Alegre, took notice. They invited him to train with their youth academy, offering structure, proper boots, and matches against other talented kids. At first, it felt strange. Real grass instead of dirt, clean jerseys instead of hand-me-down shirts. But the ball was still the same. His early days at Grêmio weren't always smooth. Coaches frowned at his unorthodox style, his instinct to slow the game down when they wanted speed. But when he had the ball, even the strictest trainers would pause to watch. By age 13, it was clear he belonged there. The rags tied together had been replaced with leather boots, but the same joy remained. Every practice, every match was a chance to create something new. At home, his mother would ask how training went. He'd just grin and juggle an orange across the kitchen floor, moving it between his feet without it touching the ground. The local fields where he once played were still there, but now when he visited, younger kids would whisper as he walked by. The boy who started with nothing but a ball of rags was on his way. Grêmio's youth coaches began mentioning his name to the senior staff. They knew his path wouldn't stop here, that one day he might step onto much bigger stages. But for now, under the same Porto Alegre sun that had watched him grow, everything felt within reach. The ball still rolled the same way, the joy remained untouched, and somewhere, in the spaces between footsteps and laughter, something extraordinary was being built. Chapter 2. A Father's Legacy and a Brother's Guidance. The kitchen light hummed softly above the worn wooden table where young Ronaldinho sat, still sweating from evening practice. His father João pulled off his work boots, the scent of fresh-cut grass lingering on his clothes from his job at the marina. Between sips of bitter cafezinho coffee, he'd tell stories about playing for Cruzeiro as a midfielder, how the crowd's roar felt like thunder, how a perfectly weighted pass could change everything. Ronaldinho would lean forward, elbows on the checkerboard tablecloth, imagining himself in those moments. When João took him to watch local matches, he didn't just see the goals. His father's callous finger would trace patterns in the air, showing how a clever turn could open space, how patience created opportunities others missed. They'd practice those movements afterward on patches of grass near their home in Vila Nova, João mimicking defenders for his son to dance around. The ball became their shared language, no flashcards for schoolwork here, just the quiet understanding between touches. Then the heart attack came without warning. One afternoon, 8-year-old Ronaldinho returned from school to find neighbors crowded outside their small house. The silence inside told him everything. A photograph from João's playing days would later sit on their living room shelf, the edges worn from being touched too often. Roberto, his older brother by 10 years, stepped into the void. Already playing professionally for Grêmio, he became Ronaldinho's anchor. Training sessions turned into private lessons, Roberto teaching him to trap high balls by dropping a tennis ball from their apartment balcony, showing him how to shield the ball with his body. When Ronaldinho struggled with school, Roberto convinced teachers to let him take tests early so he could train more. They shared a bedroom where they'd whisper late into the night about football tactics, Roberto diagramming plays on scrap paper beneath the glow of a single bulb. The loss shaped Ronaldinho's game in ways trophies couldn't measure. In pickup matches, he began incorporating his father's advice instinctively, holding the ball an extra second to draw defenders in before passing, just as João had shown him. When he scored his first proper goal for Grêmio's youth team, he looked immediately toward the stands where Roberto stood clapping. Roberto's career-ending knee injury at 25 could have broken them both. Instead, it deepened their bond. With his own dreams cut short, Roberto poured everything into Ronaldinho's development. He became fiercely protective, once refusing a transfer offer because the club couldn't guarantee they'd sign his brother too. Behind the scenes, he handled interviews and contracts so Ronaldinho could focus on playing. On bad days, he reminded his brother that joy wasn't just part of the game, it was the point. You could see João's influence in unexpected moments. During Ronaldinho's first professional match, an opposing defender shoved him hard after a slick dribble. Instead of retaliating, he smiled and helped the player up, just as his father had done years earlier in amateur leagues. When journalists later asked about his sportsmanship, he'd shrug and say it was how he was raised. Their tiny apartment in Porto Alegre became a shrine to football. The living room walls displayed Roberto's youth trophies beside Ronaldinho's first medals. The balcony where they'd practiced control drills now held pots of his mother's herbs, but the concrete below still bore scuff marks from countless hours of footwork. Even after Ronaldinho signed with Barcelona, he'd call Roberto before every match, their conversations always circling back to those early lessons. At João's grave, they left tokens from important games, a captain's armband from a cup final, a ticket stub from the World Cup. On visits home, Ronaldinho would stop by alone sometimes, kicking a ball gently against the cemetery wall as he spoke quietly about the matches his father missed. Football became more than a career. It was how they honored what they'd lost, how they spoke across time. When Ronaldinho lifted the 2002 World Cup, the camera caught him mouthing two words as he hugged the trophy, "Para você," for you. No one needed to ask who he meant. Now, when he trains young players in Rio, he teaches them as his father and brother taught him, not just techniques, but the quiet joys between the drills. He'll pause practice to show them how to trap a falling leaf with their foot, just as João once did with him. And if you watch closely during those sessions, You might see Roberto standing off to the side, nodding as another generation learns their family's language. Chapter 3. The Magic of Futsal, Where Skills Were Born. The sound of squeaking sneakers echoed through the dimly lit gymnasium as Ronaldinho shuffled across the polished wooden floor. At age 7, he stood nearly a head shorter than most players in the local futsal league, but the smaller ball suited his quick feet perfectly. Unlike the sprawling outdoor pitches he knew, this cramped court forced every decision to happen at double speed. The walls became extra players. He learned to bank passes off them, to use angles others didn't see. Futsal's heavier, size 4 ball didn't bounce much, which meant control had to come from touch rather than power. Ronaldinho would spend hours after practice working on sole rolls, dragging the ball beneath his foot until the motion became automatic. Coaches noticed how he'd trap incoming passes not with a heavy first touch, but by cushioning the ball gently as if catching an egg. The game demanded creativity. With only 5 players per side, standard football tactics didn't apply. He began developing signature moves like the elastico, flicking the ball rapidly sideways to wrong-foot defenders in the tight spaces near the walls. Games unfolded at a frenetic pace. Without stoppages for throw-ins or goal kicks, play flowed continuously from end to end. Ronaldinho adapted by simplifying his movements, 3 precise touches instead of 5 showy ones. He discovered that sometimes drawing a defender in before slipping the ball past them worked better than trying to go around. The smaller goals encouraged shooting from unexpected angles, leading to his trademark toe-poke finishes that seemed casual but were carefully calculated. Training sessions focused intensely on fundamentals. Coaches ran drills where players had to keep possession while confined to a chalk-drawn square no larger than a parking space. Ronaldinho excelled at these exercises, his low center of gravity allowing sharp turns that left markers grasping at air. While others complained about the repetition, he embraced it. The same footwork patterns done hundreds of times became second nature. Occasionally, his youth team would scrimmage against adult amateur squads, the older players using their physicality to counter the kids' skill. These matches taught Ronaldinho how to protect the ball with his body, turning his shoulder to shield it like a parent guarding a child. The futsal court became a laboratory for tricks that would later define his professional career. His no-look passes started here, born from needing to disguise intentions in a game where every glance was tracked. The rainbow flick, lifting the ball with one foot behind the other to hop over a defender, originated as a way to escape corners when trapped against the walls. Even his famous free-kick technique took shape during these years. With limited run-up space, he perfected a standing approach that relied on ankle snap rather than leg power. Weekend tournaments often pitted his neighborhood team against squads from Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo, exposing him to different styles of play. Coastal teams favored flashy individual moves, while industrial city clubs played a more physical game. Ronaldinho learned to adjust his approach based on opponents. When facing aggressive markers, he'd draw fouls by exaggerating contact slightly, earning set pieces where his dead ball skills shone. Against cautious teams, he'd patiently circulate possession until an opening appeared. Futsal's rule requiring players to serve 2-minute penalties for accumulated fouls shaped his discipline. Early on, hot-headed reactions to rough tackles earned him frequent timeouts. Over time, he developed humor as a weapon, smiling after hard fouls unsettled opponents more than retaliation ever could. By age 12, referees knew him as the player who'd help up an opponent after knocking them over with a slick move. The transition to full-sized football at Gremio's academy felt jarring initially. The 11-a-side game moved slower with more emphasis on positional play than improvisation. But Ronaldinho's futsal roots gave him distinct advantages. His close control looked supernatural on bigger pitches, and his ability to think 2 moves ahead made him dangerous in tight spaces near the box. Coaches initially worried his street ball style wouldn't translate until they saw him effortlessly adjust passes to account for windy conditions during an away match. Years later, when television analysts marveled at his vision during Barcelona games, they were seeing futsal's influence. The way he'd receive a pass, already knowing his next three options, came from those cramped indoor matches where hesitation meant losing possession. His signature scooped passes over defenders' heads resembled lofted shots off the futsal walls. Even his trademark jersey tug celebration originated here. A playful nod to teammates from his childhood team, Asociação Atlética São Borja. Today, when coaching kids in Rio, Ronaldinho always includes futsal drills. He'll set up small-sided games with boundaries half the usual size, forcing players to make quicker decisions. Some bristle at the constraints until he demonstrates how his own game was built within them. Then they watch as the 60-kilo ball seems glued to his feet despite 20 years passing since those formative matches. The gymnasium lights still reflect off the polished floor just as they did decades ago, and for a moment, the magic feels within reach again.
Chapter 4. Grêmio's Young Prodigy. The first time Ronaldinho pulled on Grêmio's blue, black, and white youth team jersey, the fabric hung loose around his skinny frame. At 13, he was the smallest player in the under-15 squad, but the ball clung to his feet as if magnetized. Coaches noticed immediately how he'd receive passes not with a heavy trap, but by guiding the ball smoothly into his next move. During drills, while others focused on power, he worked on subtle weight shifts. A dip of the shoulder here, a stutter step there that left defenders off balance. Training at Grêmio's facility was more structured than street games. The grass fields were meticulously maintained, the drills timed with stopwatches. At first, Ronaldinho struggled with the rigid positioning demands. Traditional coaches wanted wingers to hug the touchline, but he kept drifting inside where the action was. They yelled about discipline. He responded with a backheel pass that split 3 defenders during a scrimmage. The contradiction followed him: frustration at his disregard for systems, awe at what he could do outside them. His breakthrough came during a youth tournament in Curitiba. Grêmio trailed by 2 goals when Ronaldinho took over. First, he carved through 3 players with a sequence of soul rolls before slotting a finish. Minutes later, he chipped the goalkeeper from an absurd angle near the corner flag. The crowd's murmurs grew each time he touched the ball. By halftime, parents from other teams were filming his warm-up juggles. When he completed the comeback with a Rabona assist, crossing the ball behind his standing leg, even the opposing coach applauded. Back in Porto Alegre, whispers reached the senior team staff. They started sending scouts to monitor his progress. By 15, he was training occasionally with the under-20s, though coaches still debated how to use him. Some wanted to convert him to a classic number 10 playmaker. Others saw a winger who could unlock defenses. Ronaldinho himself seemed indifferent to positions, he just wanted the ball where he could influence play. His professional debut came sooner than expected. During a preseason friendly in 1997, first-team manager Luis Felipe Scolari subbed him on against local rivals Internacional. The moment Ronaldinho entered the pitch, the game's rhythm changed. He demanded the ball constantly, not with shouts, but by finding pockets of space between defenders. His first touch was an audacious nutmeg that sent an experienced fullback sliding the wrong way. Though the match ended scoreless, fans left talking about the teenager's fearlessness. That same year, at 17, he earned his first professional goal, a free kick against Santos that curled over the wall and dipped viciously under the crossbar. Teammates mobbed him, but he just grinned and pointed to the sky, a gesture his father would have recognized. The celebration became routine as his tally grew. A solo run against Cruzeiro where he rounded the goalkeeper twice for good measure. A half volley against Corinthians struck so sweetly it barely made a sound hitting the net. Bigger clubs took notice. Flamengo tried luring him to Rio with promises of immediate playing time. But Grêmio's president intervened, fast-tracking him to the senior squad with a peculiar clause: he could skip certain drills if they stifled his creativity. The compromise worked. During the 1999 Copa Libertadores, Ronaldinho dismantled Bolivia's strongest with 4 assists in one match, each pass more inventive than the last. When Boca Juniors came to town, he nutmegged Diego Simeone twice in the first half, the second time pausing mid-play to adjust his socks as the frustrated Argentine charged past. Off the field, adjustments continued. Nutritionists overhauled his diet to add muscle without sacrificing agility. Media training helped temper his playful interviews where he'd sometimes reveal tactical plans mid-quote. Roberto, now acting as his unofficial manager, screened endorsement deals to avoid distractions. By his 18th birthday, European scouts filled Grêmio's stands weekly. PSG's sporting director watched him dismantle Vasco da Gama with a hat trick, the third goal an impudent chip from the edge of the box. As the net rippled, cameras caught the French executive scribbling notes furiously. The farewell match came unexpectedly soon. Against Palmeiras in early 2001, Ronaldinho orchestrated a 4-1 win, his last goal celebrating with Grêmio's ultras by playing an imaginary guitar, a nod to their fan chant. As the crowd roared, even the sternest coaches admitted his unorthodox path had worked. When the transfer to PSG was finalized that summer, staff packed his locker carefully. Among the tape rolls and spare studs, they found a worn futsal ball from his first trial years earlier. No one could recall seeing it there before. It seemed he'd left it deliberately, a quiet reminder of where the magic began. Chapter 5. Parisian Nights, the European adventure begins. The Paris winter wrapped around Ronaldinho as he stepped off the plane, his breath visible in the cold air. At 21, he carried 2 suitcases, one with clothes, the other filled with DVDs of Brazilian music his mother insisted would help with homesickness. The PSG representatives greeted him with stiff handshakes, their formal French sounding nothing like the warm Portuguese he was used to. They drove straight to Parc des Princes Stadium, where floodlights illuminated the empty seats. A groundsman handed him a ball, expecting a quick photo op. Instead, Ronaldinho started juggling, the leather darkening as it collected mist from the night air. Training began awkwardly. Coach Luis Fernandez preferred structured 4-4-2 formations, shouting instructions in rapid French that Ronaldinho only half understood. The first weeks were spent running fitness drills, endless laps around the pitch while snow flurries dusted the turf. Tactical sessions focused on defensive positioning, a stark contrast to Grêmio's free-flowing style. When Ronaldinho tried his signature stepovers during a drill, Fernandez blew the whistle sharply. Dribbling comes after discipline, the translator relayed. Teammates kept their distance initially, veterans unsure what to make of this kid who napped in the locker room between sessions. Language barriers isolated him off the pitch. Simple tasks like ordering food became puzzles. One evening, trying to buy shampoo, he accidentally purchased hair dye instead. His small apartment near the Champs-Élysées felt too quiet without his brother Roberto, who stayed in Brazil to finish university. Ronaldinho filled the silence playing samba on a small keyboard sent from home. He memorized 5 French phrases to use in interviews, "I'm happy to be here" being the most frequent. His debut came in August 2001 against Auxerre. Subbed on for the final 20 minutes, Ronaldinho immediately drew a foul near the box. As the wall set up, he placed the ball, stepped back, then shocked everyone by rolling a pass sideways to an unmarked teammate instead of shooting. The assist sparked PSG's comeback win. After the match, Fernandez finally smiled at him. Gradually, his brilliance emerged. During a UEFA Cup match against Rapid Bucharest, Ronaldinho received the ball near midfield. 3 defenders closed in, but with 3 quick touches, he was past them. The stadium rose as he chipped the goalkeeper from an impossible angle. French newspapers called it Le Petit Miracle the next day, but inconsistency plagued his first season. Some matches he'd dazzle, others he'd disappear. Critics blamed his nightlife, rumors swirled about late outings in Pigalle. The truth was simpler, he struggled with the relentless physicality. Opponents fouled him hard, knowing referees rarely protected flair players. After one brutal tackle against Marseille left him limping, Ronaldinho spent the train ride home staring at photos of Porto Alegre on his phone. Everything changed when President Laurent Perpier hired Fernandez's replacement. Vahid Halilhodžić, a Bosnian coach, recognized Ronaldinho needed creative freedom. He moved him centrally behind the strikers, removing defensive responsibilities. The adjustment unlocked his genius. Over winter break 2002, instead of vacationing, Ronaldinho trained alone at Camp de Loges. Groundskeepers arriving at dawn would find him practicing free kicks, the penalty area dotted with snowbanks where shots had landed. New friendships helped too. Midfielder JJ Okocha took him under his wing, teaching him to handle aggressive marking. They'd stay after practice trying outrageous skills. Okocha once bet Ronaldinho couldn't score blindfolded. He did, of course. The breakthrough arrived against Lens in March 2003. PSG trailed 2-0 when Ronaldinho took over. First, a mazy run capped by a no-look finish. Then a free kick curled over the wall with such spin it wrong-footed the goalkeeper. As stoppage time began, he collected the ball near halfway, gliding past 4 challenges before sliding home the winner. The park exploded. Afterward, fans chanted his name all the way to the metro. Off-field adjustments followed. He moved to a quieter neighborhood, shipped in Brazilian groceries. His French improved enough to joke with journalists, though he still mixed up words, once confusing champion with champagne during a press conference. The squad embraced his quirks, like wearing gloves during summer friendlies because the ball gets sweaty. By season's end, Barcelona scouts attended every PSG match. Ironically, Ronaldinho's final game in Paris came against Lens again. This time, he set up all 3 goals in a masterclass. As Lens players swarmed him post-match asking for jerseys, the stadium announcer declared him man of the match. Walking off, Ronaldinho glanced back at the park's distinctive arch one last time. The city that once felt so foreign now held the first European chapter of his story. A week later, he learned Barcelona's offer had been accepted. Packing his apartment, he left behind a pair of boots in the closet. A silent thank you to the club that helped him adjust to Europe. The DVDs from his mother went back in the suitcase, ready for the next adventure. On the flight to Spain, he stared at the clouds below, already imagining the Camp Nou's waiting roar. In Paris, they still talk about his 2 seasons there. Not just the goals, but the way he made football feel like art again. The yellow boots dancing through snow, the smile that outshone the Eiffel Tower's lights. And somewhere in the park's rafters, faint scuff marks remain where one particular free kick grazed the crossbar before rippling the net. Chapter 6. Barcelona's New Magician. The Camp Nou crowd hushed as their new number 10 took his first touch during the preseason friendly. Ronaldinho controlled the bouncing pass with his thigh, letting it roll down his leg before stopping it dead with his instep. A few fans exchanged glances. This wasn't the cautious debut of most signings. Within minutes, he attempted an overhead kick from outside the box, missing just wide. The stadium erupted not in frustration but anticipation. Early training sessions revealed his effect on the squad. Veterans like Puyol and Xavi watched as Ronaldinho turned drills into playgrounds. During passing exercises, he'd casually backheel returns. In shooting practice, he experimented with knuckling free kicks by striking the valve on the ball. Coach Frank Rijkaard gave him unusual freedom, recognizing genius thrives on spontaneity. The Dutchman often stopped sessions early when Ronaldinho started improvising, letting teammates gather around to watch. Language barriers persisted initially. His Spanish mixed Portuguese pronunciations with French phrases picked up in Paris. Teammates learned to interpret his gestures, a pointed finger meaning go long, a tap on the head signaling a planned trick. Tactical meetings became simpler when Rijkaard realized diagrams limited him. Instead, he'd demonstrate moves physically, once using salt shakers to show how he'd dismantle Real Madrid's defense. The dressing room atmosphere shifted. Where once players sat quietly before matches, now Brazilian music played from Ronaldinho's boombox. He initiated pranks, swapping cleat laces, filling boots with shaving cream. After one victory, he convinced the entire squad to celebrate by pretending to row an imaginary boat across the pitch. Reporters questioned whether this undermined discipline, but results silenced critics. His first Clásico performance silenced them further. Facing Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, Ronaldinho treated Spain's biggest stage like a futsal court. He nutmegged Guti twice in 3 minutes. For his first goal, he accelerated past Sergio Ramos so quickly the defender slipped. The second saw him dance through 4 challenges before slotting past Casillas. Even Madrid fans applauded reluctantly. Teammates later said the 3-0 win marked the moment Barcelona's mentality changed. They now believed they could dominate. Off the pitch, Ronaldinho connected with the city. He frequented beachfront jugglers at Barceloneta, joining their circles. Shopkeepers grew accustomed to seeing him buy ice cream for kids playing pickup games. His signature headband look spawned imitators across Catalonia's parks. When rains flooded his neighborhood, he helped push stranded cars, muddy water soaking his designer sneakers. European nights showcased his brilliance differently. Against Chelsea in the Champions League, he stood frozen over a free kick while defenders argued positioning. As the referee turned away, he suddenly struck, the ball curling untouched into the top corner before Petr Cech reacted. Jose Mourinho admitted afterward his meticulously planned defenses couldn't account for such spontaneity. La Liga defenses fared no better. At Mestalla, he controlled a clearance with his back to goal, flicked it over his head, then volleyed in all before his marker finished turning. Against Sevilla, he scored direct from a corner, spotting the goalkeeper off his line. These weren't just goals, they were statements that football could still surprise. Behind the magic lay preparation. Ronaldinho arrived early for training, practicing free kicks until groundskeepers needed the pitch. He studied goalkeeper tendencies. Learning Victor Valdez hated low shots to his left, using that knowledge against similar keepers. Nutritionists struggled to curb his love of sweets, settling for limiting him to 2 post-match pastries. Slowly, he adapted to expectations. Press conferences once filled with playful jokes grew more polished. He learned when to entertain and when to focus, though still occasionally interrupted serious interviews by miming playing the trumpet during boring questions. Sponsorships flooded in, but he insisted on keeping his boots from a small Brazilian brand, citing their perfect weight for elastico moves. By season's end, the Camp Nou's atmosphere transformed. Entire sections now arrived early just to watch his warm-up juggling routines. When he scored, the roar carried to Las Ramblas, where Café TV's broadcast matches. Opposing teams started assigning 2 markers, then 3. One athletic Bilbao defender once grabbed his shirt and shorts simultaneously, only for Ronaldinho to wriggle free anyway. The ultimate validation came unexpectedly. During a routine league match, opponents began cautiously passing among defenders. Ronaldinho, frustrated, gestured for them to attack, then stole the ball mid-exchange and scored. Most players would have been booked for taunting. He received a standing ovation from both sets of fans. In the locker room, a ritual developed. Before big games, teammates would ask for demonstrations of his newest trick. Ronaldinho would oblige, often adding flourishes, once balancing the ball on his neck while tying his laces. These moments, more than trophies, defined his Barcelona legacy. Youngsters training at La Masia started emulating his style. Coaches grumbled about the impracticality until Xavi pointed out if genius was common, they wouldn't call it genius. The academy eventually incorporated futsal elements into training, recognizing its role in developing Ronaldinho's vision. When journalists asked about his highlight reel plays, he'd deflect praise onto teammates who made the runs to create space. Behind the scenes, he mentored Leo Messi, the teenager who'd inherited his locker. They'd stay late practicing free kicks, Ronaldinho showing him how to read wall movements by watching goalkeepers' feet. As seasons passed, his influence extended beyond statistics. Barcelona's identity became intertwined with joyful attacking play, a direct reflection of their magician's philosophy. The club that once demanded conformity now celebrated individuality, all because a Brazilian with uneven braids proved imagination could win. Looking back, those first audacious touches at his debut weren't showing off. They were a promise. Chapter 7. The night he stood still, the Bernabeu. November 19, 2005. The Bernabeu hummed with tension as Barcelona prepared to face their bitter rivals. Real Madrid stood 8 points behind in La Liga. This Clásico could define their season. Ronaldinho adjusted his headband before kickoff, already drawing whistles from the home crowd. To the Madridistas, he was public enemy number one after dismantling them the previous year. They didn't know they were about to witness something rarer than a hat trick, their own fans applauding an opponent for the first time in decades. The game started typically for a Clásico: hard tackles, quick counters. Sergio Ramos marked Ronaldinho tightly, grabbing handfuls of his shirt whenever the referee looked away. For 30 minutes, the Brazilians stayed quiet, drifting left to find space. Then it happened. Receiving the ball near midfield, Ronaldinho faced Ramos. A quick feint sent the defender sliding. He accelerated past Guti, leaving him grasping at air. As Iker Casillas rushed out, Ronaldinho calmly slotted the ball past him. The Bernabeu fell silent except for the small pocket of traveling fans. He didn't celebrate, simply turning back toward the center circle with that familiar smile. 8 minutes later, history repeated itself, same move, same outcome. This time Ronaldinho picked up the ball on the left wing. Ramos approached cautiously, remembering what happened last time. It didn't matter. A sudden body shift froze the defender just long enough for Ronaldinho to blow past him. Casillas came out again but stood no chance as the Brazilian placed his shot perfectly into the far corner. Then came the moment no one expected. As Ronaldinho jogged back after scoring his second, scattered applause broke out around the stadium. Not from Barcelona fans, from Real Madrid supporters. Slowly, it spread until over 80,000 people rose to acknowledge what they just witnessed. Even the commentators paused, recognizing the significance. Applause for an opponent here happened maybe once a generation. The second half saw Madrid crumble. Ronaldinho toyed with their defense, once stopping mid-run to adjust his socks while Ramos recovered. He nearly completed a hat trick with an audacious back heel that curled just wide. When Rijkaard substituted him late, the ovation repeated, this time louder. Madrid fans who'd booed him at kickoff now stood clapping. In the locker room afterward, teammates looked at Ronaldinho differently. This wasn't just another great performance, it was dominance so complete it forced respect from his fiercest critics. The match ball sat untouched in his locker as he joked with reporters in broken Spanish. The plays themselves weren't complicated. No elaborate 30-pass buildup, no acrobatic volleys. Just a man beating defenders one-on-one with movements so fluid they seemed rehearsed. What made it special was the context. Doing this in the Bernabeu, against Real Madrid's best defenders, with the league title at stake. Journalists asked Ramos afterward what went wrong. He shrugged. You think you have him, then suddenly you're watching his back. Casillas admitted he knew where Ronaldinho would shoot but still couldn't stop it. Even Madrid's manager praised him despite the loss. The stats didn't capture it either. 2 goals, 1 assist, solid numbers, but ordinary for him. The difference was how he made football's toughest opponents look amateurish. By repeatedly embarrassing Ramos, then helping him up afterward, Ronaldinho showed he played for joy, not humiliation. Weeks later, Barcelona players still talked about it. Deco described watching the standing ovation from the bench. I thought I was hallucinating. Messi, then a teenager, said it motivated him more than any speech. The lone Madrid player to publicly address the applause was Roberto Carlos, who said simply, "When God plays, you applaud." Back in Brazil, futsal coaches showed their students the highlights, not the goals, the milliseconds before them when Ronaldinho decided his move. They pointed out how he'd lean slightly left before going right, how he always watched defenders' hips rather than their feet. Oddly, Ronaldinho himself rarely discussed the match. When pressed, he'd mention the team performance or deflect praise to Eto'o for his runs. The only hint of pride came in a 2010 interview. That night, the ball listened. The lasting image isn't the goals or even the applause. It's the reaction of Madrid's ultras, normally merciless toward opponents, standing silent, then clapping grudgingly, then finally smiling as they realized they'd witnessed something historic. Quietly, the Bernabeu cleaning staff later reported something unusual. For weeks after the game, kids at the stadium paused longer at the exact spot where Ronaldinho launched his runs, as if hoping to absorb some residual magic. Years later, Ramos would face him again at Milan. After the match, reporters saw the defender approach Ronaldinho at midfield. They shook hands, then embraced. No cameras caught their words, but Ramos walked away laughing. Some things even Clasico rivalries can't diminish. That night in 2005 didn't just win 3 points. It redefined what greatness looked like, not just skill, but the ability to make opponents appreciate it in real time. The Bernabeu applause became football's rarest compliment, and Ronaldinho its most deserving recipient. Next time you watch those highlights, don't follow the ball. Watch the faces in the crowd. See the anger turn to shock, then disbelief, then reluctant admiration. That's the real story of the night. At Barcelona's training ground, a framed photo hangs in the hallway. Ronaldinho mid-run at the Bernabeu, Ramos sprawled behind him, and the scoreboard showing 3-0. No caption needed. Chapter 8. World Cup Glory in 2002. The 2002 World Cup in Japan and South Korea began with uncertainty for Brazil. Their qualifying campaign had been rocky, 6 losses, including a humiliating 3-1 defeat to Bolivia. Critics questioned whether their free-flowing style could still compete with Europe's disciplined teams. Ronaldinho arrived with pressure weighing heavier than his number 11 jersey. At 22, he wasn't even the most famous Ronaldo on the squad. But in the humid June air of Ulsan, things were about to change. Brazil's opening match against Turkey revealed their new dynamic. Ronaldinho didn't start but entered late with the game tied 1-1. Within minutes, he collected the ball near the right touchline, danced past two defenders, and delivered a cross that Rivaldo volleyed home. The play demonstrated his vision, spotting the run before even controlling the pass. Coach Luis Felipe Scolari kept him in the starting 11 afterward. Against China, Ronaldinho showcased his versatility. He played as a classic number 10 but kept drifting wide to create overloads. His through ball for Ronaldo's first goal split three defenders like they were training cones. Later, he nonchalantly flicked a corner kick to the near post for Cafu to smash home. The 4-0 win looked effortless, but teammates noticed his quiet work off the ball, constantly repositioning to receive passes at angles that broke China's defensive shape. The round of 16 brought Belgium, whose towering defenders seemed immune to Brazil's tricks, for 65 minutes. Then Ronaldinho received the ball near midfield with his back to goal. One quick turn left two markers colliding into each other. His disguised pass sent Rivaldo clear for the opener. Belgium equalized, but Ronaldinho's late free kick, a dipping, swerving shot, forced a save that rebounded to Ronaldo for the winner. Post-match, Belgian players admitted they'd prepared for everything except his unpredictability. England in the quarterfinals presented the ultimate test. Brazil fell behind to Michael Owen's goal, their first deficit of the tournament. Ronaldinho's response began simply: collecting the ball near halfway, he accelerated past Paul Scholes before threading a pass between Ashley Cole and Rio Ferdinand. Rivaldo finished calmly. Then came the moment etched in World Cup lore, a 40-yard free kick that fooled David Seaman, looping over the stranded goalkeeper despite Ronaldinho insisting afterward he meant to cross it. His red card later for a foul on Danny Mills tempered celebrations, but Brazil held on with 10 men. Suspended for the semi-final against Turkey, Ronaldinho watched anxiously from the stands. When Ronaldo's delicate toe poke sealed the 1-0 win, he sprinted onto the pitch in street clothes to celebrate, nearly tearing his jeans jumping on the pile. The final against Germany in Yokohama became his masterpiece. Without the suspended Michael Ballack, Germany parked their defense deep. Ronaldinho adapted by playing almost as a false nine, dropping into midfield to disrupt their marking schemes. His first half pass to Ronaldo nearly produced a goal, but Oliver Kahn made a miraculous save. Early in the second half, Ronaldinho's clever dummy let a pass roll through to Rivaldo, whose shot led to Kahn spilling the ball for Ronaldo's opener. Moments later, his no-look pass released Cafu down the right, creating havoc in Germany's box. When Ronaldo added a second, the trophy was practically secured. As the final whistle blew, Ronaldinho collapsed to his knees near the center circle. Teammates piled on while he made the "I love you" sign to the cameras, a message for his family back home. During the medal ceremony, he bit his gold medal playfully, like a child checking if it was real. Reporters asked about his tournament impact. He credited Scolari for giving him freedom and Ronaldo for being the real star. Statistically, his contribution seemed modest: 2 goals, 3 assists in 6 games. But watching the matches revealed his true influence. Against England, he completed 8 dribbles in 67 minutes before the red card. Versus Turkey, his movement created space for Rivaldo's winner despite not getting an assist. Even when not directly involved, his positioning stretched defenses unnaturally. The victory cemented Brazil's 5th World Cup but also signaled a stylistic shift. Ronaldinho's generation proved flair and functionality could coexist. Where previous tournaments favored defensive organization, 2002 rewarded creativity within structure. His no-look passes and dribbles weren't showboating, they were calculated tools to break compact defenses. Months later, when Ronaldinho joined Barcelona, fans at his unveiling chanted "Ol" with every touch during his presentation. They'd seen the World Cup. They knew what was coming. Oddly, the tournament almost didn't happen for him. During qualifying, Scolari considered dropping Ronaldinho after some inconsistent performances. Only a last-minute hat trick against Venezuela secured his place. That volatility characterized his entire campaign, moments of magic punctuated by red cards and questionable decisions. But when Brazil needed him most, he delivered. Back in Porto Alegre, his childhood friends threw a block party that lasted 3 days. They'd watched the final on a projector screen set up in the same street where Ronaldinho learned to dribble. Somewhere in the crowd, his brother Roberto stood quietly, remembering their father João. Years earlier, he'd promised his dying dad that he'd win the World Cup. In Yokohama, he'd kept that promise. The victory parade in Rio saw over 2 million people line the beaches. Ronaldinho sat atop a float with Ronaldinho Gaucho written on the side, a nod to his roots. When the bus passed through poorer neighborhoods, he made them stop so kids could touch the trophy. Watching the footage today, certain details stand out. The way he celebrated goals by pointing to the heavens. How he always helped opponents up after tackles. That when the national anthem played, he sang louder than anyone. The 2002 World Cup wasn't just Ronaldinho arriving on the world stage, it was Brazil rediscovering their football soul. Chapter 9. The free kick that defied physics. The afternoon sun beat down on Shizuoka Stadium as Brazil prepared their free kick in the 50th minute against England. The angle seemed impossible, 35 yards out near the right touchline. David Seaman positioned himself carefully in goal, arranging his wall to cover the near post. Commentators assumed Ronaldinho would cross for Rivaldo or Ronaldo. Even some Brazilian players expected service into the box. Ronaldinho stood over the ball, brushing his fingers across the valve where he'd strike. His run-up was unusually short, just 3 light steps. As he made contact, his standing foot pivoted outward while his kicking leg snapped at the ankle. The ball began arcing toward the far post, looking at first like an overhit cross. Then physics took a holiday. The spinning ball suddenly dipped as if yanked by an invisible wire. Seaman, expecting it to sail over, backpedaled frantically before realizing his mistake. He stumbled as the ball dropped under the crossbar and into the net. The stadium erupted while England's defenders stood frozen. Technically, it shouldn't have worked. From that angle, with that power, the ball's trajectory defied conventional free kick principles. Later analysis showed the shot had 10.9 rotations per second, far more than normal. The extreme topspin created a pressure differential that forced the sudden drop. Ronaldinho claimed he practiced similar shots at Grêmio's training ground when goalkeepers weren't paying attention. The moment captured his unique relationship with the ball. After the match, he admitted he initially aimed for the far post area where teammates were waiting. Only when he saw Seaman cheating off his line did he adjust mid-strike, putting extra spin to test the keeper. This awareness, reading the goalkeeper's positioning during his run-up, separated him from other set-piece specialists. England never recovered psychologically. Minutes later, Ronaldinho's clumsy challenge on Mills earned him a red card, but Brazil held on with 10 men. The 2-1 victory sent them through to the semifinals, largely thanks to a goal no one could have anticipated. Breaking down the technique reveals subtle genius. Unlike Beckham's straight-leg approach, Ronaldinho kept his knee slightly bent, allowing quicker wrist-like snap at contact. He struck slightly below center to generate lift, then let follow-through spin create the dip. The ball's trajectory was actually 3 movements in one. Initial rise, mid-flight plateau, then sharp descent. Seaman's positioning played a role too. Standing 6 yards off his line gave Ronaldinho a tempting gap under the bar. The keeper admitted afterward he expected a curler to the far post, not an attempted shot. England manager Sven-Göran Eriksson called it a freak occurrence, though replays showed Ronaldinho attempting similar goals in French league matches. The goal became an instant World Cup classic for its audacity. Most players wouldn't dream of shooting from that angle with a quarterfinal on the line. That it happened against England, a team famous for defensive discipline, made it more remarkable. Terry Venables quipped it was the only time he'd seen Seaman outsmarted by geometry. Years later, physicists studied the goal extensively. One MIT paper determined the ball followed a trajectory called a knuckling effect with late dip, extremely rare in professional matches. Barcelona later used 3D modeling of the shot in their youth academy, not to teach the technique, but to encourage creative problem solving. Oddly, Ronaldinho rarely attempted such free kicks again. When asked why, he explained most goalkeepers now stayed on their line against him after seeing the England goal. His solution? He simply started scoring with different techniques. Low drivers, near-post curlers, even straight shots through jumping walls. The legacy lives on in unexpected ways. In Brazil's favelas, kids still play Ronaldinho rules street games where goals from wide angles count double. GPS data later showed the ball traveled 39.2 yards before crossing the line, farther than initial estimates. Analysis of Seaman's positioning revealed he took one fatal step left before the kick, opening the tiny gap Ronaldinho exploited. During filming for a documentary, Seaman met Ronaldinho years later. The keeper good-naturedly asked if he meant it. Ronaldinho grinned and said, "Ask the ball." The exchange captured the playful spirit behind one of football's most calculated moments of brilliance. In 2012, NASA physicists recreated the goal using their vertical wind tunnel. They determined atmospheric conditions in Shizuoka that day, 60% humidity, light southwest wind, helped magnify the dip by approximately 3%. Still, they concluded only someone with Ronaldinho's exact combination of touch and spatial awareness could replicate it. Coaches often use the goal as a teaching moment. Not for the technique, which is near impossible to reliably reproduce, but for the decision-making. Few players would even consider shooting from there in a World Cup knockout match. That willingness to try the improbable defined Ronaldinho's career. Strangely, the goal mask was almost missed. The broadcaster initially kept their main camera zoomed on the box awaiting a cross. Only quick switching to a wide-angle shot captured the ball's full flight. Had they stayed tight, viewers might have seen only Seaman's stunned reaction before realizing what happened. Modern tracking systems show similar attempts occur about once every 750 professional matches. Only one, this one from June 2002, found the net. The combination of audacity, skill, and perfect conditions made it unrepeatable. 20 years later, Shizuoka Stadium installed a plaque near where Ronaldinho took that kick. It doesn't commemorate the goal directly. Instead, it reads, "Greatness begins where others stop trying." That sums up the moment better than any highlight reel ever could.
Chapter 10. Training Ground Secrets. Where magic was practiced. The camp knew floodlights stayed on long after most players had showered and left. Groundskeepers would find Ronaldinho alone on the pitch, working on moves no coach had taught him. He'd set up cones in unusual patterns, not straight lines, but clusters that forced him to adjust mid-dribble. One drill involved juggling a tennis ball with his weaker foot while moving sideways across the penalty area. Another saw him practicing free kicks blindfolded, learning to gauge distance by sound alone. His training notebooks revealed meticulous planning. Pages showed diagrams of goalkeeper tendencies. Valdez always cheated left on near-post shots. Casillas stepped early on long-range efforts. He recorded weather conditions affecting ball movement. Humidity made leather heavier, cold air reduced bounce. Before big matches, he'd arrive 2 hours early to test the pitch's grass length, adjusting his cleat studs accordingly. The famous elastico move didn't come naturally at first. Ronaldinho spent weeks perfecting it, first with a stationary ball, then at walking pace. Teammates recalled hearing the repetitive scrape-tap-scrape of his shoes as he practiced the motion. Right foot pushing the ball left while his body leaned right, then instantly dragging it back with the outside of his boot. At Grêmio, he'd attempt it hundreds of times daily until his socks filled with blisters. Nutritionists struggled to enforce meal plans. Ronaldinho's love of sweets led to compromises. He could have dessert if he completed extra ball work sessions. After losses, he'd punish himself with additional training, once staying until sunrise doing crosses until his thighs cramped. Staff learned to hide extra balls. He'd wear them out faster than the club could replace them. Free kicks became a science. He discovered striking the valve on the ball created unpredictable movement, so he'd hand-pick match balls with the valve positioned perfectly. For long-range efforts, he practiced hitting the ball's bottom quarter to generate lift without backspin. Goalkeepers hated facing his knuckleball technique, a straight-leg approach that made shots wobble mid-flight. Small-sided games were his laboratory. At Barcelona, he organized 3v3 matches with special rules. Goals only counted if scored with the weaker foot or via a no-look pass. When teammates complained, he'd demonstrate how constraints bred creativity. These sessions produced tricks like his signature toe poke finish, a move considered unorthodox until he started scoring with it regularly. Rainy days brought unique preparations. Ronaldinho practiced sliding tackles on wet turf to learn how the ball skidded differently. He'd test various boot brands to find which maintained grip on soaked pitches. Before the 2002 World Cup quarterfinal, he spent hours kicking waterlogged balls to adjust for Japan's monsoon season. The no-look pass required precise peripheral vision training. He'd set up targets around the pitch and practice hitting them while staring in the opposite direction. Over time, he developed an ability to track player movements through subtle head feints and shoulder checks. Opponents swore he had eyes in the back of his head, but it was just thousands of repetitions paying off. Recovery sessions still involved ball work. Instead of static stretching, Ronaldinho would juggle slowly while moving through yoga poses. His physio recalled him balancing on one leg doing keepy-uppies during ice baths. Even injury time became skill time. While rehabbing an ankle sprain, he practiced left-footed volleys from a seated position. Visiting youth players at La Masia often received impromptu lessons. Ronaldinho showed them how to trap high balls by dropping a tennis ball from the stands onto their foot. He taught the importance of scanning, making it a game where they had to identify how many fingers he held up mid-dribble. These weren't just tricks, they built the awareness that made his magic possible. Warm-ups were performances in themselves. While others did basic passing drills, Ronaldinho would chain together impossible moves, a rainbow flick into a heel chop, followed by a volley off the crossbar. Teammates initially saw it as showing off until realizing he was testing his touch and range. The ball had to feel just right before matches. Coaches eventually gave him free rein. They noticed his pre-game routines were as specific as a concert pianist's, certain touches with his right foot, then left, then a long pass to gauge conditions. If anything felt off, he'd redo the sequence until satisfied. This attention to detail is what separated his training from others. The Ronaldinho people saw dazzling on weekends wasn't born from talent alone. It came from empty stadiums and dew-covered pitches at dawn. From notebooks filled with goalkeeper tendencies and weather patterns. From bloody socks and worn-out shoes. The magic was practiced long before it was performed. Next time you watch his highlights, remember those effortless moves took more effort than anyone realized. The no-look passes, the sudden free kick dips, the way he made defenders trip over their own feet. All of it was rehearsed in solitude until it looked easy. Because that's how magic works, the best tricks are the ones that hide the preparation completely. So if you're practicing football skills that seem impossible, keep going. Ronaldinho's genius wasn't in being perfect. It was in persevering until his imperfections became his signature. And that's something anyone can learn with enough lonely hours and scuffed balls. Chapter 11. The smile that captivated the world. The football pitch is usually a place of intense focus and serious competition. Players wear game faces, managers shout instructions, and fans hold their breath during critical moments. Ronaldinho changed all that simply by smiling. Even in the heat of important matches, his trademark grin never faded. It became his signature, as recognizable as his dribbling skills or headband. This joy wasn't just about having fun. It represented a different approach to competition. Where others saw pressure, Ronaldinho saw opportunity. During tense Champions League matches, he'd joke with defenders after beating them. When fouled hard, he'd get up smiling instead of arguing. Opponents didn't know how to react. Sportsmanship and intensity weren't supposed to mix this way. His happiest moments often came against top rivals. In El Clasico games against Real Madrid, Ronaldinho would wink at Sergio Ramos after a clever move. After scoring, he celebrated by playing air guitar with the corner flag. These weren't taunts, but invitations to enjoy the game. Remarkably, even Madrid fans began applauding him. The effect reached beyond stadiums. Kids everywhere copied his celebrations. Youth coaches noticed more players attempting tricks rather than just playing safe. Television ratings rose when he played because viewers expected something special. Ronaldinho proved entertainment and winning weren't opposites. Teammates responded to his attitude. At Barcelona, training sessions became playgrounds. Players invented games within games. Scoring with their weakest foot earned bonus points. Serious drills often dissolved into laughter after Ronaldinho attempted something ridiculous. Yet when the match started, they played better because of this freedom. Opposing players experienced it too. Veteran defenders admitted they secretly enjoyed being beaten by him because of how he did it. After matches, opponents lined up to exchange jerseys. Even referees noted he rarely complained about calls, accepting decisions with a shrug. The smile had practical benefits too. It disarmed defenders unsure whether to respect or challenge him. Goalkeepers hesitated when he grinned before penalties. Coaches struggled to give tactical warnings against someone so clearly enjoying himself. His joy became a competitive advantage. This approach developed early. As a child in Porto Alegre, Ronaldinho played barefoot games where the only rule was creativity. Street football taught him to solve problems with skill rather than strength. Later, when professional coaches tried to impose rigid systems, he adapted them to his style rather than changing completely. Media played a role too. Ronaldinho's interviews were full of jokes and playful answers. He'd mock his own mistakes and praise opponents generously. Reporters looked forward to his press conferences where anything might happen. Once he answered every question with a new trick using the microphone as a prop. Commercial sponsors loved his marketability. Ads showed him juggling soda cans or laughing with kids. Brands used his smile to sell everything from sports drinks to phones. Yet it never felt forced. The same grin appeared whether cameras were rolling or not. Critics misunderstood at first. Some claimed he wasn't serious enough about winning. Others said his tricks showed disrespect. But trophies proved them wrong. Ronaldinho won everything while staying true to himself. His approach made teammates better and opponents envious. The legacy lives on today. Young players worldwide emulate his joyful style. Coaches encourage creativity rather than punishing mistakes. Fans remember his performances longer than scorelines. Stadiums still buzz when someone attempts a Ronaldinho move. Even after retiring, that smile remains his trademark. Charity matches, sponsor events, coaching clinics. He approaches each with the same energy. Former opponents now count themselves as friends. The boy who played for fun became a man who changed how professionals view the game. Looking back, the greatest trick wasn't any particular dribble or pass. It was making elite football feel like a neighborhood kickabout. Underneath the skills and trophies lay a simple truth: Ronaldinho never stopped playing like that smiling kid from Porto Alegre. And that's why we'll never forget him. Modern analytics measure every aspect of performance except joy. Coaches track running stats and pass completion rates but can't quantify what Ronaldinho brought. Perhaps his real gift was reminding everyone why they fell in love with football in the first place. The goals fade from memory, but that smile never does. Next time you watch football, notice when players celebrate creatively or opponents exchange friendly words. That's Ronaldinho's influence. The sport became more human because of him. And that might be the most valuable victory of all, proving performance and personality can shine together. Chapter 12. Milanese Sunsets, a new chapter in Italy. The summer of 2008 brought change for Ronaldinho as he arrived at Milan's Malpensa airport. The red and black scarf handed to him by fans felt different from Barcelona's colors he'd worn for 5 years. At 28, he wasn't the young phenom anymore. The pressure to deliver was immediate. Milan's football demanded adjustments. Italian defenses were organized differently, packed tighter in the center. Manager Carlo Ancelotti wanted Ronaldinho to play more directly, using his skills in the final third rather than roaming freely. The first training sessions showed the challenge. When he tried his signature elastico move, defenders like Maldini and Nesta simply held their positions. Early league matches were tough. Critics claimed he'd lost a step, pointing to fewer explosive runs. But those watching closely noticed changes. He was passing earlier, moving the ball quickly before tackles came. By November, the adaptation started showing results. Against Sampdoria, he scored his first Milan goal with a clever near-post flick most strikers wouldn't attempt. The derby against Inter that December revealed his growing comfort. With Milan trailing, Ronaldinho controlled a loose ball near the corner flag. Instead of forcing a cross, he rolled it back to Pirlo, then darted into the box. When the return pass came, he redirected it first time past Julio Cesar. The celebration, two fingers tracing a smile across his face, acknowledged the pressure he'd overcome. Training routines changed in Italy. Milan's staff focused on maintaining his explosiveness as he approached 30. They introduced yoga sessions to improve flexibility, adjusted his diet to reduce heavy Brazilian meals. Ronaldinho surprised them by arriving early to study Serie A defenders' tendencies. He noted small details. Chiellini leaned left when shadowing forwards. Materazzi reacted slowly to quick 1-2s. The 2009 season showed his reinvention. No longer the primary scorer, he became Milan's creative hub. His assist numbers rose sharply as he learned to exploit Italian defense's weak spots, slotting passes between center-backs, chipping balls over flat-back lines. A clever backheel assist for Pato against Roma demonstrated this new efficiency. The highlights weren't as flashy, but the impact was real. Winter nights at San Siro produced magic moments. Against Juventus, he trapped a high pass with one touch, spun past two markers with the next, then scooped a finish over Buffon, all in continuous motion. The crowd's roar echoed through Milan's foggy streets afterward. Teammates said that version of Ronaldinho reminded them of his peak years. Champions League nights brought mixed results. While dominating against Zurich with 2 goals and an assist, he struggled against Manchester United's disciplined shape. Critics focused on these matches, missing his improved consistency in Serie A. By season's end, he'd contributed 10 goals and 14 assists across competitions, strong numbers that didn't tell the full story. Off the pitch, Milan suited him. The city's vibrant Brazilian community helped with homesickness. He frequented small restaurants serving feijoada, sometimes bringing teammates to try it. Local kids would gather outside Milanello's training complex hoping for tricks. He rarely disappointed them, often staying late to juggle balls with them. Later seasons saw him used more selectively. Manager Allegri preferred him in home games where Milan controlled possession. A 2010 masterclass against Parma showed why 3 assists created through precise through balls rather than dribbles. The January transfer rumors began when younger stars arrived, but Ronaldinho kept contributing when called upon. His final Milan goals came at the perfect moment. Against city rivals Inter in November 2010, he scored twice. First a penalty Panenka that fooled Julio Cesar, then a free kick curled over the wall. The second sparked wild celebrations in the Cava Sud, where fans unveiled a giant banner reading, O Re du Milan, the King of Milan. Those moments proved he could still decide big games. Training sessions revealed his mentorship side. Young striker Alexander Pato later credited Ronaldinho for teaching him to vary shot placement. They'd stay after practice taking turns being goalkeeper, Ronaldinho showing how small shifts in body shape gave away shooting intentions. These lessons helped Pato score 14 goals that season. The farewell came suddenly. In January 2011, with contract talks stalled, Ronaldinho agreed to return to Brazil. His last match was fitting. A Coppa Italia win against Bari where he set up the winner with a disguised pass only Ibrahimovic anticipated. As snow fell on the San Siro pitch afterward, he took an extra lap to applaud all 4 stands. Looking back, the Milan years showed a different Ronaldinho. The outrageous tricks were rarer, but the football intelligence grew sharper. He adapted his game without losing its essence, still playing with that unmistakable joy, just in ways that suited Italian football. Numbers don't capture his Milan impact fully. Attendances rose when he played, especially among families bringing kids to see magic. Teammates played with more freedom around him. Even in training, he'd try impossible moves that made veterans stop and watch. That quality, making professionals feel wonder, was what Milan truly bought. Today, highlights from those years hold up differently than Barcelona's. They show craft rather than outright dominance. A no-look pass here, a clever flick there, moments where his experience outshone physical gifts. For fans who watched closely, those Milan performances revealed something important. Great players can reinvent themselves without ceasing to be great. When he left Italy, Ronaldinho took pieces of Serie A with him. His free kick technique influenced Pirlo's later style. Young Italian playmakers studied how he created space without speed. Even the Panenka penalty became more common afterward. The league changed him, but he changed it back a little too. San Siro's groundskeeper reportedly kept one souvenir, a training bib from Ronaldinho's final session, sweat-stained and marked up with tactics. Not for display, just as reminder that even legends adapt. That might be the real lesson of those red and black years. Skill lasts, but intelligence grows. And when both combine, even Italian defenses must yield.
Chapter 13. Return to Brazil, completing the circle. The plane touched down in Rio under a blazing January sun, marking Ronaldinho's first professional match in Brazil since leaving Grêmio 12 years earlier. At 31, he returned to Flamengo not as the European superstar fans remembered, but as a veteran seeking to rediscover his roots. The club presented him with a cake shaped like Maracana Stadium, a sweet gesture obscuring the immense pressure awaiting him. Local newspapers debated whether he still had the magic, while youth players at Flamengo's training ground whispered about getting to practice with their childhood idol. Adapting to Brazil's league proved challenging. The pace was faster than Italy's tactical Serie A, the defending less organized but more physical. Early matches showed rust, misplaced passes, struggles with the humid weather. Critics pounced when Flamengo lost his debut game 2-0 to Boa Vista. But Ronaldinho remained patient, spending extra hours working with coaches to adjust tactics for Brazil's end-to-end style. Slowly, the rhythm returned. His first goal came against Boa Esporte, a free kick curled around the wall with familiar precision. Domestic tournaments became his proving ground. The Campeonato Carioca saw Ronaldinho dismantle local rivals Vasco and Fluminense with vintage performances. Against Botafogo, he delivered 3 assists in one half, each showcasing different skills: a no-look through ball, a chipped cross, a driven low pass. Teammates noticed how he elevated those around him, encouraging young forward Adriano to attempt ambitious moves rather than playing safe. Financial issues at Flamengo cast shadows over the reunion. Late salary payments led to a messy contract dispute, culminating in Ronaldinho's abrupt 2012 departure to Atlético Mineiro. Though disappointing, the switch re-energized his career. In Belo Horizonte, manager Cuca built the team around his creativity, pairing him with younger stars like Bernard. The system worked. Ronaldinho thrived as a deep-lying playmaker, controlling games with precise long passes rather than explosive runs. The 2013 Copa Libertadores became his crowning Brazilian achievement. Now 33, he guided Atletico through grueling knockout rounds with intelligence honed in Europe. Against Argentina's Newell's Old Boys in the semi-final, his disguised pass sent Joe through for the series-winning goal. The final against Olimpia went to penalties after 2 exhausting legs. Ronaldinho converted his kick calmly, then watched goalkeeper Victor seal the victory. As confetti rained down, he carried the trophy around Mineiro Stadium, tears mixing with sweat. The boy who once dreamed of continental glory had delivered it for his home country. Off the pitch, his influence expanded. Youth academies across Brazil reported increased enrollment after his return. Kids imitated his signature moves in favela courtyards and beach games. Even opponents sought autographs. During one match, a young Grêmio player stopped him mid-play to ask for his jersey. Ronaldinho later sent the boy a signed pair of boots with a note, "Keep playing with joy." Sponsorship commitments kept him busy, but he prioritized football. Between matches, he visited grassroots projects in Rio's poorest neighborhoods, often staying hours to play with kids. Former Flamengo teammate Leo Moura recalled how Ronaldinho would organize impromptu training sessions at local futsal courts. He never forgot where he came from, Moura said. Those were his happiest moments, just a ball, some kids, and no pressure. The Brazilian national team came calling again briefly in 2013. Coach Felipe Scolari included Ronaldinho in a few friendlies, wanting his experience for the upcoming World Cup. Though he didn't make the final squad, training alongside Neymar and Oscar bridged generations. Young players studied how he positioned himself during drills, the economy of his movements. After practice, they'd crowd around asking about his Barcelona days. As his career wound down, Ronaldinho embraced mentorship. At Atletico Mineiro, he took teenage midfielder Dudu under his wing, teaching him to vary passing rhythms. Before matches, they'd play a game where Ronaldinho would demonstrate a skill, a disguised pass, a sudden turn, then challenge Dudu to replicate it under pressure. Final seasons saw him transition between clubs, Querétaro in Mexico, then Fluminense back in Brazil. The explosive pace was gone, but the vision remained. In his last professional match for Fluminense against Internacional, the stadium gave him a standing ovation when substituted. Fans chanted "Obrigado, Ronaldinho" as he walked off, waving to all corners of the arena. Looking back, the return to Brazil completed a circle. The teenager who left Porto Alegre with European dreams came home to share what he'd learned. His later years weren't about chasing trophies, but passing on knowledge, showing that Brazilian flair could merge with tactical discipline. The football changed during his absence, becoming more structured and scientific. Yet watching Ronaldinho play for Flamengo or Atletico Mineiro, you could still see traces of the boy who once dazzled Grêmio's youth coaches. The no-look passes, the sudden free-kick surprises, that trademark smile after beating a defender. The essence remained untouched by time or travels. Today, former teammates tell stories about his impact. How he'd organize team dinners where veterans and rookies bonded over music and food. How he insisted on signing autographs until every fan got one, even after tough losses. These small gestures mattered as much as the goals. Reminders that football's greatest joys often happen off camera. When young players now ask about his career, Ronaldinho emphasizes the Brazilian years equally with Europe. Not just the trophies won, but the pleasure of playing under familiar skies again. The chance to inspire kids who'd grown up watching him abroad. To close his journey where it began, with a ball at his feet and a smile that needed no translation. The move back wasn't a farewell tour, but a homecoming in the truest sense. And perhaps that's why those final seasons resonate so deeply. They proved you can go home again, especially when you never really left. Chapter 14. The Last Dance. Atletico Mineiro's Fairy Tale. When Ronaldinho arrived at Atletico Mineiro in 2012, most assumed he was riding out his career. At 32, he'd left Europe behind and struggled with Flamengo. Few expected what came next. Coach Cuca built his system around Ronaldinho's vision, giving him free rein to orchestrate attacks from deep. The results surprised everyone. The 2013 season showed glimpses of vintage Ronaldinho. His passing range remained exceptional. He could hit 40-yard diagonals with ease. Against Sao Paulo, he controlled the entire match, dictating tempo like a conductor. Younger teammates like Bernard benefited from his experience. Ronaldinho would pull the winger aside during training to show him how to time runs between defenders. These small lessons made a difference. Atletico's Copa Libertadores campaign became Ronaldinho's masterpiece. The tournament was grueling, long flights across South America, hostile stadiums, physical opponents. But Ronaldinho thrived. In the group stage against Arsenal de Sarandi, his perfectly weighted pass set up Joe's winning goal. Against Tijuana in the quarterfinals, his free kick curled just under the crossbar. Each performance proved he still had magic left. The semi-final against Newell's Old Boys was special. Facing his former club, Ronaldinho delivered 2 assists across both legs. His pass for Joe's decisive goal was pure instinct, a first-time flick while looking the other way. After the final whistle, Ronaldinho swapped jerseys with his old teammates, then celebrated with Atletico's fans. The scenes showed how much it meant to him. The final against Olimpia tested everything. The first leg ended 2-0 in Paraguay, putting Atletico behind. Back in Belo Horizonte, Ronaldinho led the comeback. He controlled midfield, spreading passes to stretch Olimpia's defense. When the match went to penalties, Ronaldinho stepped up first. His spot kick was calm, a slow run-up followed by a firm strike into the corner. Goalkeeper Victor made 2 saves to seal the win. As confetti rained down, Ronaldinho lifted the trophy he'd last won as a teenager with Grêmio. The celebration lasted all night. Teammates later said he was the last one to leave the stadium, signing autographs for every fan who waited. That moment capped his South American career perfectly. A champion again in front of his people. Domestic success followed. Atletico won the Campeonato Mineiro, with Ronaldinho scoring crucial goals. His partnership with Joe and Bernard became the league's most dangerous. Even opponents appreciated watching him work. After one match, Cruzeiro's players asked for photos with him. Ronaldinho obliged, then joked with them about future transfers. Training sessions revealed his leadership. He'd arrive early to work with younger players, teaching them tricks he'd learned in Europe. Midfielder Leandro Donizete recalled how Ronaldinho would demonstrate moves, then challenge him to try them under pressure. "He made you believe you could do anything," Donizete said. That belief spread through the entire squad. Off the pitch, Ronaldinho connected with fans uniquely. He'd visit local schools without cameras, surprising kids with impromptu training sessions. His presence boosted Atletico's profile, merchandise sales doubled, stadiums sold out. Even casual fans came just to see him one more time. The final matches of his Atletico spell were emotional. Though his pace had slowed, the creativity remained. In his last home game, supporters unveiled a giant banner reading, "Eternally Grateful." Ronaldinho responded with 2 assists before being substituted to a standing ovation. As he hugged each teammate, the chant of Rei do Mineiro echoed around the stadium. Looking back, those 2 years in Belo Horizonte completed his journey. The superstar who conquered Europe became a mentor back home. His influence extended beyond stats. He changed how Brazilian veterans approached their later years. Now players see it's possible to return and succeed, not just retire quietly. The Copa Libertadores triumph was particularly sweet. Proved Ronaldinho could still decide big games when it mattered. The photo of him kissing the trophy remains iconic. A player who gave everything to Brazilian football receiving its ultimate prize one last time. After leaving Atletico, Ronaldinho briefly played in Mexico before retiring. But those Mineiro seasons were his proper farewell. They showed that even late in a career, class remains. And for fans who watched, it was a reminder that legends don't fade, they simply find new ways to shine. Today, young players in Brazil still study his Atletico performances. Not just the flashy moves, but how he controlled games with intelligence. They see it's possible to adapt while keeping your essence. That may be his greatest lesson, that true greatness isn't about defying time, but using experience wisely. Ronaldinho's time at Atletico Mineiro wasn't just another chapter. It was the perfect ending to a story that began on Porto Alegre's dusty streets. And for those who witnessed it, the memories will never fade. The smile, the passes, the nights when an aging magician proved some spells never lose their power. The last dance was every bit as beautiful as the first. Chapter 15. Beyond the pitch, the ambassador of joy. When Ronaldinho retired from professional football in 2018, the game lost its most joyful ambassador. But his influence didn't disappear, it simply shifted to new arenas. These days, you're more likely to find him at charity matches than Champions League games, though the effect remains the same. That famous smile still lights up rooms, whether he's meeting young players or representing Brazil at international events. His post-retirement roles have been carefully chosen. As a global ambassador for Barcelona, Ronaldinho makes regular appearances at Camp Nou, often surprising academy kids during training sessions. He'll join in their drills, demonstrating moves from his playing days while offering casual advice. Club officials notice how these unplanned moments boost morale more than formal speeches. Similar work with the Brazilian Football Confederation sees him visiting grassroots projects in favelas, where he'll play pickup games with local children for hours. The transition wasn't always smooth. At first, Ronaldinho struggled with the loss of daily competition. Friends say he filled his schedule with appearances to avoid downtime. But gradually he found purpose and mentorship. His football schools across Brazil emphasize creativity over rigid systems, the complete opposite of traditional academies. Trainers there report students attempting Ronaldinho-style tricks within weeks, gaining confidence along with skills. Sponsorship deals now reflect his values. Where other legends market luxury brands, Ronaldinho partners with kids' sportswear companies and educational initiatives. A recent collaboration with a Brazilian shoe brand provides free equipment to underfunded futsal programs. "Football gave me everything," he explains. "Now it's my turn." These projects stay deliberately low profile. You won't find press releases about most of them. Social media became an unexpected tool. His Instagram, run without corporate handlers, mixes throwback highlights with backyard kickabouts. Followers love the unpolished clips where he teaches his young son football basics or jokes with former opponents. Unlike many retired stars, Ronaldinho doesn't use his platform for commentary or controversy. It's purely about sharing joy, a digital extension of how he played. The ambassador role extends beyond football. During the 2016 Rio Olympics, he appeared at events supporting Brazil's athletes. Visitors described him patiently posing for photos long after official duties ended. That same year, he joined a UNICEF campaign promoting education through sport, visiting schools where equipment scarcity forced kids to play with bottle caps. Within months, those schools received proper balls and coaching. Friendships from his playing days remain central. Neymar still calls him for advice before big matches. Former Barcelona teammates invite him to reunions where stories about his pranks always dominate. At a recent charity auction, Ronaldinho donated a dinner with him. The winning bidder spent 3 hours hearing halftime speeches he'd given in locker rooms. Not tactical stuff, the attendee recalled. Just how to remember it's a game we're lucky to play. Challenges persist. Business ventures have had mixed success. A failed energy drink deal taught him to be more selective. Media occasionally criticize his relaxed approach to post-career fitness. But those close to him argue Ronaldinho was never about maintaining some perfect image. His authenticity, flaws included, is what resonates with people. The pandemic revealed new dimensions to his influence. Stuck at home, Ronaldinho filmed weekly skill challenges for isolated kids. One video showed him juggling toilet paper rolls. It went viral, sparking a global trend. Later, he anonymously funded tablet donations so hospitalized children could watch football during treatments. Hospital staff only discovered the donor when a patient recognized his voice during a video call. Recently, he's focused on preserving Brazilian football heritage. A documentary project traces the roots of street football tactics now used worldwide. Former teammates contribute interviews sharing how pickup games shaped their careers. Ronaldinho personally tracked down retired players from Rio's legendary beach tournaments, ensuring their stories weren't forgotten. His calendar balances these passion projects with paid appearances. Corporate events pay well, but Ronaldinho often renegotiates terms. Instead of standard meet and greets, he'll propose mini tournaments with employees. At a Barcelona tech conference, he abandoned the script to teach coding students how dribbling relates to problem solving. The spontaneous session became their most shared post-event content. The legacy keeps growing organically. Young players he's never met credit YouTube compilations of his tricks as inspiration. Coaches use his career to teach adaptability, how he evolved his game across continents and eras. Even casual fans remember specific Ronaldinho moments more vividly than whole seasons of other stars. Perhaps his greatest impact is making football feel accessible. Where some legends seem untouchable, Ronaldinho remains the neighborhood talent who made good. That relatability, more than any trophy, is why kids still mimic his moves in dusty schoolyards worldwide. The magic wasn't just in the skills, it was in making excellence look like fun. Looking ahead, he's discussed coaching but admits patience isn't his strength. For now, the ambassadorial work continues, each appearance spreading the same message without words. Whether at a major sponsor event or a Rio favela, Ronaldinho still communicates best with a ball at his feet and that infectious grin. The medium changed, but the mission didn't. Joy remains his trademark, and sharing it became his second career. Long after retirement, the beat goes on. Chapter 16. The Artistry of No-Look Passes. Ronaldinho's no-look pass wasn't just a trick, it was a language. He'd receive the ball, look deliberately left with his entire upper body committed to that direction, then fire a pass right with perfect weight. Defenders would shift their stance, only realizing they'd been fooled when the ball was already behind them. What made it special wasn't the deception alone, but how he used it as a practical tool rather than a showy move. The technique originated in futsal courts, where split-second decisions mattered more. Young Ronaldinho practiced by facing walls, training himself to track teammates' positions through peripheral vision. He'd later explain this wasn't about showing off, it helped him avoid telegraphing passes in tight spaces. At Grêmio, coaches initially scolded him for trying it until they saw how effectively it broke defensive lines. That's when the move became calculated rather than careless. Timing was everything. Watch his Barcelona highlights and you'll notice he never did no-look passes early in matches. He'd wait until defenders grew accustomed to following his eye line, usually around the 30-minute mark. Then he'd strike. Against Chelsea in the Champions League, his no-look-through ball set up a goal after he'd spent the first half convincing defenders his glances predicted his passes. Frank Lampard admitted afterward, "You think you're learning his patterns, then realize he's been teaching you the wrong lesson." The pass required perfect chemistry with teammates. At Barcelona, Deco and Samuel Eto'o learned to watch Ronaldinho's hips rather than his eyes. But even they got fooled sometimes in training. Xavi recalled one session where Ronaldinho no-look passed to an empty space only for a sprinting Messi to arrive right on cue. When asked how he knew Messi would be there, Ronaldinho just smiled and said, "I didn't, but Leo always is." Breaking down the mechanics reveals why it worked. As Ronaldinho shaped a pass, he'd exaggerate his head movement slightly more than necessary. The extra rotation made defenders commit fully. His body positioning stayed neutral though, allowing last millisecond adjustments. Former teammate Thiago Motta described trying to learn it. You think it's just about the eyes, but your shoulders and knees have to sell the fake too. Opponents developed counter strategies that rarely worked. Some tried staring at his feet instead of his face, but Ronaldinho would then use actual look-away passes where his eyes followed the real target. Others attempted to ignore his fakes completely, which left them vulnerable when he occasionally did pass where he looked. AC Milan's Alessandro Nesta said facing him was like playing chess against someone who changes the rules mid-game. The pass's legacy lives on today. Watch Kevin De Bruyne or Bruno Fernandes. They've incorporated subtle head fakes when crossing, a direct influence. Even at youth levels, coaches who once discouraged tricks now teach controlled deception. Data analysts credit no-look passes with breaking high-pressing systems as they disrupt defenders' anticipation algorithms. Ronaldinho's most memorable executions came when least expected. In a 2005 Clasico, he no-look passed to Giovanni van Bronckhorst while literally waving at a fan in the stands. Against Atletico Madrid, he did it while adjusting his headband with one hand. These weren't gimmicks, they disguised passes just long enough to freeze defenders. The risks were real though. Get it wrong and you gift opponents possession in dangerous areas. Early at PSG, a failed attempt led to a counterattack goal. Manager Luis Fernandes benched him for the next match's punishment. Ronaldinho responded by practicing the move for hours afterward, determined to master it. When he earned back his starting spot, his first pass was a no-look assist. Tracking its evolution shows how Ronaldinho refined it. At Grêmio, the passes were flashy but sometimes careless. By Barcelona, they became economical, a slight head tilt could be enough to deceive. In his Milan years, he used them more sparingly but with greater precision. The version he taught Neymar at PSG involved less head movement and more body feints, adapting to defenders getting wiser to the trick. Modern analytics confirm its effectiveness. Tracking data from his Barcelona seasons shows his no-look passes had an 87% completion rate compared to 91% for regular passes, but those failed attempts rarely led to turnovers. More importantly, they created shooting opportunities 42% more often than standard passes. The numbers prove what fans sensed: this was high-reward, calculated risk-taking. Youth coaches now teach it differently because of him. Instead of just demonstrating, they have players practice peripheral vision drills. One common exercise involves calling out colors while passing to improve awareness without looking. Ronaldinho himself runs clinics where participants must complete passes while maintaining eye contact with him, a drill that frustrates and educates in equal measure. What began as a street football quirk became a tactical weapon because Ronaldinho proved it could work at the highest level. Today, when a young player attempts a no-look pass and gets benched, coaches hear the same protest, but Ronaldinho did it. That's his true legacy, expanding what's considered proper football through sheer effectiveness. The move now belongs to everyone, though no one does it quite like he did. Perhaps the greatest testament came from opponents. Veteran defenders admitted privately they enjoyed being fooled by his passes. It meant they'd been part of something special. When Cannavaro faced him in a charity match years later, he jokingly begged Ronaldinho to try one last no-look pass against him. Of course, he obliged, and of course, it worked perfectly. Nowadays, when analysts discuss the pass, they focus less on the spectacle and more on the spatial awareness it requires. That shift captures why Ronaldinho mattered. What looked like magic was really just advanced football IQ disguised as playfulness. The no-look pass wasn't his invention, but he perfected it by proving imagination and effectiveness could coexist. And that's why, years after retirement, defenders still shudder when they see young attackers practicing the familiar head fake on training grounds worldwide. Chapter 17. Training the Next Generation. The sun beats down on a dusty pitch in Rio where Ronaldinho kneels in the grass demonstrating a skill to wide-eyed kids. At 44, he moves a bit slower now, but his eyes still light up when the ball's at his feet. This is his newest role, not just as a legend, but as a teacher passing on what he knows. These training sessions have a different feel from traditional academies. There are no complex drills or tactical boards. Instead, Ronaldinho focuses on the basics that made him great: how to control the ball under pressure, when to attempt tricks, why scanning the field matters. He starts each session with a simple question: who wants to learn something fun today? The approach works because of how he teaches. When showing his famous elastico move, he breaks it into 3 parts: the push, the drag, the acceleration. Kids practice each step slowly before combining them. Some struggle at first, but Ronaldinho always finds a way to help. He'll place cones closer together for those needing smaller spaces or demonstrate with a tennis ball for better control. One signature drill involves juggling while answering questions. Ronaldinho will bounce the ball off his knees and head while quizzing players about what they see around them. How many teammates are making runs? Which defender looks tired? It sharpens their awareness just like his old futsal games did for him. Parents notice changes in their children after these sessions. The kids start trying creative passes in weekend matches instead of always playing safe. They smile more during games too, a direct reflection of Ronaldinho's philosophy that joy and excellence belong together. One father recounts his son attempting a no-look pass in a tight match because Ronaldinho said the bravest play is usually the right one. Not everything comes easily. Some talented youngsters struggle when their tricks fail in games. Ronaldinho shares his own stories about failed skills early in his career. He shows them videos of his missed attempts alongside the highlights, proof that even masters need practice. After one session, a dejected teen stayed late practicing stepovers. Ronaldinho joined him, demonstrating how he once spent weeks perfecting that same move against a backyard wall. The mentorship extends beyond technical skills. During breaks, he talks about handling pressure. If you're nervous before a big game, that's good, he tells them. It means you care. Now go make that energy work for you. He teaches breathing exercises used before his biggest matches, simple routines to stay calm. Teenagers preparing for professional trials get special attention. Ronaldinho arranges practice matches where they face older, physical opponents, just like he did growing up. He watches from the sidelines, noting how they react. Afterward, he'll pull them aside. That turn you did in the 20th minute? Do that more. The defense hated it. His feedback focuses on strengths rather than flaws. Former students now play professionally credit his unconventional advice. One recalls Ronaldinho telling him to pass with your eyes, not your feet, during tryouts. The cryptic tip actually meant to misdirect defenders by looking one way while passing another. A subtle skill that helped secure his contract. The training sessions themselves have evolved. Early on, Ronaldinho tried copying standard academy practices but found they stifled creativity. Now he blends structure with freedom, maybe 20 minutes of guided drills followed by small-sided games where anything goes. The only rule? No apologizing for mistakes. If you try something brave and it fails, we clap, he reminds them. Nutrition became part of the curriculum after Ronaldinho spotted kids eating junk food before practice. He started bringing fruit and explaining how food affects performance, not with scientific jargon, but practical examples. Eat like you're preparing for the big game every day, he tells them. Some parents now pack healthier lunches after their children repeat his advice at home. The most popular sessions happen near holidays when Ronaldinho organizes street rules tournaments. The games have crazy rules. Goals only count if scored with your weak foot, or you must attempt one trick per possession. Winners get signed gear, but everyone leaves with stories. Last Christmas, he played as a goalie and let every shot in, laughing as kids celebrated like they'd won the World Cup. Not all his time goes to youth training. Ronaldinho consults for several professional clubs too, mainly about developing creative players. His advice focuses on giving talent room to grow rather than overcoaching it. At Flamengo's academy, coaches report players attempting more creative plays after his visits, even if they fail sometimes. Technology plays a role in his teaching now. During the pandemic, Ronaldinho filmed skill challenges for isolated kids. One viral video showed him juggling rolled-up socks in his living room. He still gets messages from children who learned basics through those clips when fields were closed. The work continues expanding. Recently, he partnered with a Sao Paulo charity to install futsal courts in underserved areas. Each opening includes a clinic where Ronaldinho stays until every child gets personal attention. Photographers try capturing these moments, but the best ones happen off-camera, like when he taught a shy girl how to spin the ball on her finger for 20 patient minutes. Former teammates sometimes join these sessions. When Neymar visits Brazil, he'll surprise the kids alongside Ronaldinho. They're playful competitions who can do the most stepovers or the longest rainbow flick show that even professionals never stop learning. Parents occasionally ask if their child has what it takes. Ronaldinho always gives the same answer: if they love playing, they're already winning. That perspective might be his greatest lesson, that success starts with passion, not trophies. Looking ahead, he's planning football schools across Brazil modeled on his informal sessions. The curriculum will emphasize creativity and problem-solving over rote memorization of tactics. Staff will include former players who share his teaching philosophy. For now, the quiet moments matter most, like when a struggling player finally nails a move and looks up to see Ronaldinho beaming. That smile, the same one that charmed stadiums worldwide, now encourages the next generation to fall in love with the game all over again. As our journey through Ronaldinho's life comes to a close, picture that same joyful boy from Porto Alegre, now a legend, still smiling, still dancing with the ball under a golden sunset. His story isn't just one of trophies or fame, but of love for the game expressed with every carefree touch. He showed us that greatness is born from joy and magic from play. Let his spirit stay with you tonight, light, effortless, and free. And as your eyes grow heavy, may his story inspire your dreams, guiding you gently into a deep and peaceful sleep.